Engineer Choi worked at another terminal accessing the station's communication systems. I can broadcast this data on all frequencies, but it will alert the Axian fleet to our location. Jin nodded. Do it anyway. This is bigger than just our rescue. As Choi prepared the broadcast, Jin studied the station schematics. She noticed something strange, a secure section deeper in the facility. There are other prisoners here, she said quietly. Not just humans. The decision was made. Instantly, Jin sent a message to Admiral Jun's approaching team. Change of plans, we have more people to save. On the bridge of his command ship, Jun received the message with mixed feelings. The mission was to extract their people and leave, quick and clean. But he understood what Jin was asking. Adjust the extraction plan, he ordered. We'll need to hold the docking bay longer. His second-in-command looked concerned. Sir, the Axian fleet is regrouping. They're beginning to see through our electronic deception. Jun studied the tactical display. Then we changed tactics, launched the light drones. Thousands of tiny light emitters ejected from the human ships. They scattered across space, each projecting a holographic image of a human vessel. Suddenly, instead of 12 ships, the Axian's sensors detected hundreds. On the Axian command ship, Emperor Maklar watched the displays with growing anger. How are they doing this? He demanded of his officers. You told me humans were primitive. His science director bowed nervously. We may have underestimated their adaptability, Your Eminence. Inside the research station, Jin led her team deeper into the facility. They moved carefully through maintenance tunnels to avoid Axian patrols. Finally, they reached the secure section. Be ready, Jin warned as she bypassed the lock. We don't know what's inside. The door slid open to reveal rows of containment cells. Inside each was a different alien species, some humanoid, others completely foreign to human eyes. All looked weak and damaged from Axian experiments. We can't leave them, Dr. Yoon said firmly. Jin nodded. Choi, can you open all the cells at once? Yes, but the station's security will lock down immediately after. Do it, then broadcast the research data to every system in this sector. Choi hesitated only a moment before executing both commands. The cell doors slid open. At the same time, the evidence of Axian cruelty began streaming to dozens of worlds. Alarms blared throughout the station. Jin addressed the freed prisoners, as best she could, using gestures when language failed. Follow us if you want freedom. Some were too weak to move. Others joined the humans immediately, seeming to understand. The strange procession made its way toward the extraction point where Admiral Jun's team waited. In space, the Axian fleet fell into disarray. Not only were they confused by the holographic ships, but now their communication channels were flooded with their own secret records. On 3 planets previously loyal to the Axian Empire, riots broke out as the populations learned what their leaders had been allowing. Emperor Maklar watched his tactical display turn red as his fleet commanders reported the impossible. Human ships were breaking through their defenses, and the research station was in chaos. For the first time in his long life, he felt fear. Not of the humans themselves, but of what they represented, a species that would not submit, would not be studied, and catalogued and controlled, a species that fought back. The Sci-Fi Axian flagship hovered outside Earth's orbit, its massive shadow falling across the moon. Inside the grand meeting chamber, Emperor Maklar sat facing the human delegation. His scales had lost some of their shine in the weeks since the research station incident. Admiral Jun led the human representatives. Dr. Jin stood beside him, her face showing no fear despite being in the presence of the being who had ordered her capture. Your people have cost me greatly, Maklar said. His voice translator made his words sound flat. 3 systems have already declared independence from the Empire. They chose freedom after learning the truth, Jun replied simply. Just as others will. The Emperor's multiple eyes narrowed. You could have simply rescued your people and left. Why release our research data to the galaxy? Dr. Jin stepped forward. Because what you did to us, you've done to others for centuries. It needed to stop. The room was silent. Outside the viewport, Earth gleamed blue and green, beautiful and surprisingly dangerous. "What do you want?" Maklar finally asked. "Your ships could not defeat our entire fleet, but you've shown you can cause complications." June placed a data device on the table between them. A new arrangement, the Galactic Accord. Maklar touched the device with one of his 4 hands. The holographic display activated, showing a document written in both human and Axian languages. "This recognizes the sovereignty of all sentient species," June explained. "It establishes rules for contact, trade, and cultural exchange. And it forbids the taking of any beings for study without consent." The Emperor made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You expect me to sign this? To give up the power the Axian Empire has held for 1,000 years? No," Dr. Jin said. "We expect you to adapt. Your empire is already crumbling. The species you've oppressed are rising up. You can fight wars on a dozen fronts, or you can help build something better." Maklar's eyes moved from the humans to the display of Earth beyond. "And if I refuse?" June's face remained calm. "Then Earth stands, ready to defend itself and any other world that wants freedom. We've already formed alliances with the Nari and the Vex systems." This news clearly shocked the Emperor. The Nari had been loyal Axian subjects for generations. "We did not come to your world seeking conflict," Jin added. "You brought this to our doorstep. Now you must choose what follows." 3 days later, the announcement went out across the galaxy. The Axian Empire had agreed to the terms of the Galactic Accord. Emperor Maklar would remain ruler of Axian core worlds, but the era of unlimited expansion and exploitation had ended. 1 year passed. On Earth, a new facility had been built in Seoul. The Galactic Embassy rose like a silver tree from the city center, its architecture blending human design with elements from a dozen alien cultures. In the main council chamber, Dr. Jin addressed representatives from 27 species. Some appeared physically, others as holograms from distant worlds. "When humans first looked to the stars, we dreamed of finding others," she told them. "We imagined many things, but we never imagined we would help reshape the order of the galaxy." The back of the room, a figure watched quietly. Maklar had come in person, no longer as emperor of all he surveyed, but as the representative of the Axian people. He had aged noticeably in the past year. After the session, Jin approached him in the garden designed for Axian comfort, warmer and more humid than humans preferred. "You look troubled," she observed. Maklar turned his eyes to her. "I still do not understand how your species did it. You were outnumbered, outgunned. Yet here we are, following your vision of the galaxy." Jin smiled slightly. "That was your mistake. You saw us as specimens to be studied. You never considered that we were people with dreams of our own." "A costly error," Maklar admitted. "Not an error," Jin corrected him. "An opportunity. The Accord benefits everyone, even the Axians. Your scientists now work alongside humans and others. Together we're solving problems none of us could alone." As they spoke, a ship took off from the embassy landing pad, the first joint human-Axian exploration vessel. The president studied him. "Your daughter is among the captured. Can you remain objective?" "Because my daughter is captured, I will be more careful, not less," June replied. "I will bring our people home alive." 3 days later, deep under the Pacific Ocean, Admiral June addressed the commanders of Earth's hidden fleet. Their ships were docked in an enormous underwater hangar that had been disguised as a tectonic research facility. "The Axians have made a critical mistake," June told them. "They took our people, but they left one behind. Engineer Tay managed to activate a tracking device before the Dawn was boarded. We know exactly where they've taken our researchers." The screen behind him showed a massive space station orbiting a distant moon in the outer solar system. "We believe this is a research facility, not a military installation. Our mission is extraction, not extended combat. We go in quiet. We find our people. We leave." A commander raised her hand. "What about the Axian fleet near Earth?" A diplomatic delegation will keep them occupied, June explained. They still believe we're seeking a peaceful solution, and we've developed technology to mask our ships from their sensors. The briefing continued with detailed plans. Jun saved the most important part for last. Remember, the Axians don't know what humans are truly capable of. They see us as specimens to study. By the time they realize their mistake, our people will be safe, and the Axians will understand that Earth is not a world of victims. That night, as the fleet prepared to launch, Jun stood alone in his quarters looking at a photo of his daughter. "I'm coming for you," he whispered. The next morning, Earth's hidden fleet rose from the oceans, mountains, and moon bases, to human eyes watching. From Earth, nothing unusual appeared in the sky. But far away on the Axian research station, the captured scientist from the dawn felt the ship tremble slightly as new specimens were brought aboard. Dr. Jin, locked in her cell, looked up at the ceiling. Somehow she knew. "They're coming," she whispered. Dr. Jin sat in her cell, watching the Axian guards through half-closed eyes. 7 days had passed since their capture. The aliens believed the humans were resting, but Jin was studying, learning, memorizing guard patterns and testing the limits of her confinement. The cell wasn't designed for humans. Small mistakes in the design revealed the Axians' lack of understanding about their captives. The air was too rich in oxygen, the light cycles were wrong, and most importantly, the Axians had underestimated human hearing. Jin pressed her ear against the cooling duct. Through it, she could hear the scientists in other cells. They had developed a tapping code to communicate when the guards weren't listening. "They're taking Juan for tests today," Jin whispered to Dr. Yoon in the next cell. "When they open your door, be ready." The Axian research facility was vast. Jin had been mapping it in her mind during her trips to the testing chambers. The layout was efficient but predictable. Too predictable. "Status report," Jin whispered through the vent after the guards had completed their evening rounds. "Medical. Section mapped," came Dr. Yoon's reply. "They're studying our immune systems. They seem surprised by how quickly we heal. Communications hub located," added Engineer Choi from 2 cells down. "Their technology is advanced but follows basic principles. I could operate it with minimal training." Jin smiled in the darkness. The Axians thought they were studying humans. They didn't realize humans were studying them back. Meanwhile, in the dark space beyond Neptune, Admiral Jun's fleet approached the Axian research station. Their ships moved in unusual patterns, breaking formation, regrouping, changing speed. Randomly, "Their sensors can't lock onto us," explained Commander Seo at the tactical station. "Our ships are too small and move too erratically for their targeting systems." Jun nodded. The Axian warships were massive, designed to intimidate with their size, but size made them slow, predictable. "Deploy the drones," Jun ordered. Hundreds of tiny, unmanned craft launched from the human ships. Each was barely larger than a human hand. They swarmed toward the Axian station like electronic insects. Inside his command ship, Jun watched the drone feeds. They're not even shooting at them. They don't recognize them as threats. The drones attached themselves to the station's hull, external sensors, and communication arrays. They didn't attack. They simply observed and transmitted data back to the fleet. "Sir," said Seo, "the drones confirm Dr. Jin and the others are alive. They're being held in the north quadrant of the station." Jun studied the station schematic being built from the drone data. Their defenses are concentrated on large-scale threats. They never considered something as simple as our drones. Back on the station, Dr. Jin felt a slight vibration through the floor. Something was happening. The guard patterns had changed. More Axians were moving through the corridors. "They're distracted," Jin whispered to the others. "It's time." When the guard brought Jin's evening meal, she was lying on the floor, seemingly unconscious. The Axian entered, forearms ready to subdue her if needed. It nudged her with a foot, then leaned closer. Jin's eyes snapped open. She grabbed the breathing apparatus on the Axian's face and twisted it sharply. The alien gasped, struggling to process the sudden attack. Axians weren't used to prey that fought back. In the corridor, alarms began to sound. Jin slipped out of her cell and released Dr. Yoon and the others. "We have 15 minutes before they organize a proper response," Jin told them. "Engineer Choi, take us to the communications hub." Outside the station, Jun's fleet had begun its main attack. But instead of firing weapons, they broadcast signals, complex electronic pulses that mimicked Axian emergency protocols. "Their ships are breaking formation," Seo reported with satisfaction. "They think they're receiving orders from their own command." The confusion bought time for Jun's extraction team to approach the station undetected. They docked at a maintenance port identified by the drones. Inside the station, Jin and the escaped humans reached the communications hub. As Choi had predicted, the Axian technology was usable by human hands. Jin accessed the internal system. "Attention, all Axian personnel," she broadcast throughout the station. "This facility is now under human control. Resistance will be met with appropriate force." It was a bluff, but the Axians didn't know that. As far as they knew, humans were primitive creatures, specimens for study. Now those specimens were taking over their station, and human ships were confusing their fleet. The Axians had never considered that they themselves were being observed, analyzed, and outsmarted. The control room of the Axian research station buzzed with activity as Dr. Jin accessed the main computer terminal. Her fingers flew across the alien interface, surprisingly adaptable to human touch. "I'm in," she announced to the others. "They don't change their security codes often." Overconfidence. Dr. Yoon stood guard at the door with an Axian weapon they had taken during their escape. The strange device felt heavy in his hands. "How much time do we have?" he asked. "Admiral Jun's extraction team will reach us in 20 minutes, Jin replied. "But we need to do more than just escape." She had discovered something horrifying in the Axian database. Humans weren't the first species the Axians had abducted for study. Dozens of other civilizations had suffered the same fate. Most never saw their people again. Jin downloaded the records to a portable device. "This is The stars looked different from the observation deck of the Korean research ship Dawn. Dr. Jin stood quietly, her dark eyes fixed on the strange lights that weren't stars at all. They were ships. The Axian fleet had arrived 3 days ago. "More tea, Dr. Jin?" asked Dr. Lee, holding out a steaming cup. "Thank you," she said, taking it without looking away from the window. "Any word from the talks?" Dr. Lee shook his head. "President Kang says they're difficult but moving forward." The Axians had appeared suddenly in Earth's solar system, their massive ships dwarfing even the largest human space stations. They claimed to represent a vast empire of thousands of worlds. They said they came in peace. The Dawn had been ordered to Saturn to study how the alien ships affected the planet's rings. Jin and her team of 12 researchers were the closest humans to the main Axian vessel. "I don't trust them," Jin said softly. "They watch us too closely." "You're just being careful," Lee said with a small smile. "That's why you're our security expert and not just another scientist." Jin had once worked for Korean military intelligence before turning to science. Old habits died hard. A sharp alarm cut through their conversation. Red lights flashed across the deck. "Proximity alert," shouted Captain Moon from the command center. "Unknown vessel approaching at high speed." Jin rushed to the monitors. A sleek, predatory craft had detached from the main Axian fleet and was heading straight for the Dawn. "They're not responding to hails," said the communications officer. Jin grabbed the ship-wide comm. "All personnel, secure stations for possible hostile action." The Dawn wasn't a military vessel. It had basic shields but no weapons. Jin knew they couldn't fight if the Axians attacked. The alien ship drew closer. It was beautiful in a cold way, like a perfect knife. "They're scanning us," Lee reported, checking his instruments. "Very detailed scans. They're focusing on life signs." Jin felt a chill. This isn't diplomatic. The ship's lights dimmed suddenly. Emergency backup systems kicked in. "We're being hit with some kind of energy field," Captain Moon announced, her voice steady despite the fear Jin could see in her eyes. "It's draining our power." Can we send a distress signal? Jin asked. Already tried. Something's blocking all transmissions. The deck beneath them shuddered. Metal groaned. Jin steadied herself against a console. They're latching onto our hull, said the sensor officer. Portside, near the main lab. Jin grabbed a toolkit from under a workstation. Dr. Lee, with me. We need to secure the research data. They ran through corridors that were quickly filling with confused crew members. The ship shook again. Harder this time. What's happening? Asked Min, a young physicist, as they passed. Get to the escape pods, Jin ordered. Now. The main lab doors slid open. Inside, 3 other researchers were frantically downloading data to portable drives. Hurry, Jin told them. Wipe everything else. A terrible screeching sound filled the air, metal tearing. The hull breach alarm wailed. They're cutting through, Lee whispered. Jin moved to a cabinet in the back, punching in a security code only she and Captain Moon knew. Inside was a small box, a last resort measure, an EMP device that would fry all electronics on the Dawn, including the valuable research data. Her hand hovered over it when the wall exploded inward. Figures stepped through the smoke. They were tall, at least 7 feet, with iridescent scaled skin and 4 arms. Their faces were almost human-like, but with too many eyes all fixed on the humans. One of the aliens raised a device. Jin lunged for the EMP box, but light flashed from the device. Her muscles locked. She couldn't move. The same happened to everyone in the lab. Frozen but aware, Jin could only watch as the aliens methodically examined each human, scanning them. With handheld tools, they seemed especially interested in the women. The lead alien spoke, its voice translated by a device on its chest. These specimens will be adequate. Take them. Jin fought against the paralysis with everything she had. A finger twitched. Not enough. The aliens gathered the humans like dolls, carrying them easily with their multiple arms back through the breach to their ship. The last thing Jin saw was Earth, a blue marble in the distance as the alien ship pulled away from the crippled Dawn. They had come in peace. That had been a lie, and now Earth would have to respond. The escape pod from the Dawn research vessel crashed into the Pacific Ocean just off the Korean coast. Inside was a single survivor, Chief Engineer Tae, barely conscious and clutching a data drive. They took them all, were his first words to the rescue team. They took Dr. Jin and the others. Within hours, the United Earth Defense Council gathered in Seoul. The room was tense as the recordings from the Dawn played on large screens. They watched in silence as the Axian soldiers methodically captured the human researchers. Admiral Jun stood at the head of the table. His daughter had been the Dawn's pilot. The Axian ambassador claims no knowledge of this attack, said President Kang. They say it was rogue elements, not official military action. Admiral Jun's face remained stone-like. And you believe that? What I believe doesn't matter, President Kang replied. What matters is our response. Defense Minister Park spread her hands on the table. We've monitored their fleet. They have weapons technology we can barely understand. A direct military confrontation would be suicide. So we do nothing? Jun's voice was quiet but sharp. No, said a new voice. A small man entered the room. Many council members straightened. In their seats, it was Dr. Back, head of the secret project Sunrise. It's time, he said simply. The president nodded. Show them. Dr. Back touched his tablet. The screens changed to show massive structures hidden under the ocean, inside mountains and on the far side of the moon. For 20 years we've been preparing, Dr. Back explained. Since the first alien signals were detected, Earth has built defenses in secret. The screens showed sleek ships, unlike the bulky civilian vessels Earth officially used for space travel. Weapons platforms disguised as research stations, defense systems hidden in plain sight. We have 97 combat-ready vessels, Dr. Back continued. Advanced shield technology reverse-engineered from the signal data, and weapons the Axians won't expect. Admiral Jun leaned forward. You hid this from the public? From most of the military? We had to, President Kang said. If the Axians monitored our communications, they needed to see a peaceful, relatively primitive species. Not one preparing for war. The council argued for hours. Some wanted diplomatic solutions, others immediate military action. "We have one advantage," Dr. Back finally said. "They don't know what we know. Their attack on the Dawn shows they're interested in us as specimens, not threats. They think we're weak.